Hey, it's Sleep Alive. This is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3. This phone has a lot of potential, but it's so limited at the same time. And as much as I love the phone, just don't buy it. Hear me out. So folding phones has been around for a couple years now, but they have never been the go-to option for everyone or anyone. They are more like a super niche product for a very small group of users. And there's a reason for it. Probably mainly for its price. Previously, the price of the folding phones far exceeds the mainstream flagship phones like S21 Ultra and the iPhone 12 Pro Max, while offering less value. But not that folding phones are about value anyways. We are paying considerably more, but only for that folding display. Of course, the folding screen is the star of the show here. On the Z Fold 3, it's a 7.6-inch 120Hz dynamic AMOLED 2X display. For the quality, it's among the best display out there. It's big, crisp, super bright, super vibrant, and has excellent viewing angles. The 120Hz refresh rate is great. It's responsive and super smooth. It's Samsung's flagship display. There's no question, it's going to be great. But it folds, so durability is a concern here. It's plastic, not glass, and the toughness is nowhere close. Samsung call it a PET display that is 30% stronger than the Z Fold 2, but it's still plastic. So Zach from Jerry Rig Everything tested out, and it turns out it scratches only on level 2, just like other plastic display does, and that's not good. But in my case, after 1 week, the folding screen on my Z Fold 3 is still scratch free, but for long term, that's still a big question. We'll have to wait and see. Folding phones always come with a crease, and the Z Fold 3 is no exception. The crease hasn't been improved from the Fold 2 at all. But after a week with this phone, I don't think it's a problem. Most of the time, I'll interact with the screen on either side, and rarely in the middle anyways. But it's still there. You can feel it as you glide your finger over it. To me, it's no big deal, but if you use the S Pen a lot, you'll find it annoying every time you write down something. And for visibility, it's there, you'll see it, but if you're focusing on the content on the screen, it kind of fades away. Like you tend to forget about it for the moment. This also applies to the under display camera. Again here, if you look for it, it's there, but if you don't, or you're focusing on the center of the display, it will look flush with the rest of the display. The screen over the camera is super pixelated, and the camera quality is pretty bad. The image quality here has noises everywhere, and the overall image looks soft. To be fair, it's only a 4 megapixel sensor that is beneath the display. It gets the job done, but not in a desirable way. But luckily, Samsung did give us another option. There's one on the outer display, and that worked as it should. For the outside display, it's a smaller 6.2-inch 120Hz super narrow, super tall display. It's definitely not practical, but it's still a very good display. The quality is as good as the one inside, plus the screen has Gorilla Glass Victus covered, so you can worry less about the durability. But I've got to say, using this display is not a really good experience. It's narrow, so contents shown on the screen are tiny. And coming from iPhone 12 Pro Max, this just doesn't feel right. Typing experience is among the worst. Normally I use Gboard, and on the inside display I'm forced to use the extra short size because any other size will take up too much space. But the keyboard setting is also linked to the outside display, and it's tiny. But if you are using Samsung's own keyboard, it will be a better experience. The sizing of the default keyboard has been optimized to be used on two displays very well. For the build quality, the Z Fold 3 is among the finest. It's really well built and well refined. It felt so premium in hand when either folded or unfold. It has a glass sandwich design with a metal frame, and when folded, it's super thick. It's almost twice as thick as a normal phone. But the narrow body of the phone makes it fit quite well on the hand. But it's not as comfortable as a regular phone due to the whopping 271 grams weight. But that's expected on any folding phones. There's a fingerprint sensor on the side which doubles as a lock button. It's accurate and fast, but the phone will require you to fully press the button to unlock the phone when you haven't wake up the phone yet. There are two speakers here, one on the top and one on the bottom of the phone, so when unfolded you'll have to use it on landscape orientation for stereo speakers, and they are good. It's loud, clear, and has a pretty good dynamic to it. For performance, this phone comes with Snapdragon 888 and 12GB of RAM. It flies. Even opening multiple apps at once, it's not a problem here. And for gaming, I'd recommend doing it on the big display. That's a lot more comfortable. It felt pretty immersive when compared to a normal phone, but the phone will get warm after a few minutes of gaming, and for a longer session, it will get uncomfortably hot around the camera area, but you can easily avoid the hot area by holding it like this. Samsung only include a 4400 mAh battery to power a flagship phone with 220Hz display. It's quite disappointing and amazing at the same time. It's a regular size battery on a device that requires more power than any other phone, but it did to manage to get a decent battery life out of it. Sometimes, when you are on Wi-Fi, the battery life is pretty good. On the day I stayed home, I ended the day with almost 6 hours of screen on time, and that's mainly using the big display. It's not the best battery performance by any means, but 4400 mAh battery and a massive display, 6 hours is pretty good. But if you are out and you're on 5G, that's a whole new story. It drains quite a lot faster than using Wi-Fi. I would say it's about an hour or two of screen on time less than when using Wi-Fi, and that's like 20-30% less, so beware of that. There are a total of 5 cameras on the Z Fold 3. The 12 megapixel main camera, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 12 megapixel 2x telephoto, 10 megapixel selfie camera on the outside, and 4 megapixel under display selfie camera on the inside. It's quite a letdown when you're paying $1,800 for a phone and still doesn't get the best camera on the market. The camera on the Z Fold 3 should be at least as good as the S21 Ultra. But instead, the main sensor is the same one on the S21, which is actually a really good sensor, but $18 for a phone? Come on! Taking photos on this phone feels weird. If you want to take a quick photo, I bet you're using the outer display, and the viewfinder is small, and it's not comfortable in either portrait or landscape orientation. And with the case on, it's even worse. Using the inside screen as a viewfinder also feels weird as well. It's gigantic, like taking photos on an iPad. and the image shown on the display when you're pointing at the subject looks like jello. But as soon as you snap a photo, the image comes out totally fine. The quality of the photos you get from this phone is quite alright. It has good detail, good dynamic range, and good contrast. However, it's not as good as the S21 Ultra, and you are limited to only a 10 times digital zoom. For video, you can shoot up to 4K 60 frames, and there's a super steady mode as well, but that's going to dial you down to 1080p. Samsung also launched multiple cases for the Z Fold 3, and I've been rocking the Z Fold 3 with this flip cover with pen case. The Z Fold 3 is the first Fold to be S Pen compatible, and yeah, the S Pen is definitely best only on the Note series phone. I'm just too paranoid about the durability of the screen that I only use the S Pen for a couple times, but so far after a week it's fine. Now onto the case. This is the only official Samsung's case that has a slot to hold the S Pen, and it has a pretty nice, soft, vegan leather feeling to it, and it snaps onto the back of the phone perfectly. But the problem is with the front cover. It's flimsy and loose. It's supposed to lock the phone when it's covered, but the weight of the S Pen on the side keeps on pulling it away, and that wakes the phone up. There's probably magnets inside, but it's so weak that it can't even make the cover to stay in place. And the way the cover sits when using the phone when either fold or unfold, the cover just sits in these awkward positions that just make handling the phones really not comfortable. Up to this point, to me, nothing is a deal breaker to the point of not recommending this phone. But there's one very important problem here: the software. The Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3 runs on One UI 3.1.1 on Android 11. Samsung really did a great job refining its own app to take advantage of the larger display, like the setting apps. It has a column view, which is an ideal use for the larger display. However, there are only a handful of apps that are optimized to be used on a larger display. Mostly Samsung's own apps, and apps that Samsung say they are partnering up to make the developer optimize their apps to make use of the extra screen estate. Spotify is one of them, and it did use up the screen estate really well. However, the problems are with the apps that are not optimized for larger displays. And they are the majority of apps on the Play Store. Even those most well-known apps like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, they're just a stretched version of a normal Android apps, and it really ruins the overall experience on this phone. Gboard, as I mentioned, is also one of them. Take Facebook for example. The feed is so blown out so bad that there's one post shown at a time, and many times it doesn't even show the whole post. This has been a problem for Android devices with large displays since forever. And here's even a bigger problem. Over half of global tablet market share are iPads. And it's fair for the developer to think it's not worth it to optimize the app for the area that has less users. And looking at the numbers, I just can't see the app developer will be willing to optimize their app for foldables or tablets anytime soon. And that's a huge problem the foldable phones makers and users will have to deal with. Let's hope I'm wrong, and that the market will be soon flooded with the foldable supported apps. Those are my thoughts from using the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3 for a week. I love the hardware of the phone, I really do. There's so much more things that the phone is capable of, or the overall experience with the phone could be much better. But it didn't, due to the software issues. I just can't see how anybody could enjoy a phone with this huge problem that wouldn't be completely solved anytime soon. I'll just have to pass on the foldables for now. What do you guys think? Do you think the foldable phones are going to be more popular, or even go mainstream? Or do you think they're going nowhere? Leave your thoughts down below and like the video if you like it, and don't forget to press subs and ring the bell icon for more contents like this in the future. See you guys next time. Stay safe.